Welcome to the Book Review Podcast. Today, we're diving into Ryan Daniel Moran's 12 Months to $1 Million. The full title is How to Pick a Winning Product, Build a Real Business, and Become a Seven-Figure Entrepreneur.
Yeah, and it's definitely not your typical dry business textbook.
No, not at all. It feels much more like a practical roadmap, really. Packed with actionable stuff for anyone who's seriously thinking about building something real.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to unpack his core ideas, the steps he lays out, finding a product, scaling up, all that.
Should be some good insights.
Yeah.
Especially how he kicks things off.
Right. He starts with mindset, which, a lot of business books maybe gloss over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Moran really hammers this home. He says, look, the book gives you the strategy, but you actually doing it, that depends on shifting your mindset, getting into a wealthy mindset, as he calls it.
It's more than just wanting the cash. It's a whole different way of looking at problems and opportunities, right?
Totally. He argues that, most people kind of stay stuck financially, not because they lack talent, but because they haven't got the right strategy and the right way of thinking.
And it's interesting, he links that entrepreneurial drive to having a bit of a chip on your shoulder.
Uh-huh. That urge to prove people wrong. He thinks that actually fuels the risk-taking you need.
So it's not painted as some, easy peasy path to millions.
Not at all. It's framed as this challenging, demanding thing, but ultimately really rewarding. An adventure, but one that requires sacrifice.
And his own story kind of backs that up, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Deciding at 12 years old that business was his route.
Wow, 12.
Yeah. And then, years later, actually hitting that 8-figure mark. It wasn't just luck, it was that long-term view and consistent grind.
He really boils entrepreneurship down, though. It's basically seeing a problem and deciding, okay, I'm going to do something about this.
Whether that problem is being broke or just, not liking your life situation.
Taking responsibility.
It's that proactive thing. And crucially, he links your own well-being directly to how the business does. That idea that the business is a reflection of its leader. That's powerful.
Makes sense. If you're stressed out, you make bad calls.
Right. So taking care of yourself mentally and physically isn't like a nice to have. It's fundamental to running the business well.
Okay, so mindset first, but then there's that classic question, am I too late? Is the market saturated? People worry about that constantly.
Oh, yeah. And Moran tackles it head on. He basically says, look, things are always changing, and that change, that's where the opportunity is.
So change isn't a barrier, it's actually fertile ground.
That's the idea. He points to things like Amazon FBA, Kickstarter, even Instagram. These platforms popped up and just completely changed the game.
Lowered the barriers to entry, basically.
Massively. Made it way easier for regular people to start and actually grow an online business. These weren't just small tweaks. They are major shifts creating new possibilities.
So the environment's always shifting, and that's where you look. And even with huge companies out there.
Right. Even with all the competition. He argues there's always room for good products, strong brands. People still want quality. They still connect with brands. He even mentions how some, let's say, established brands keep succeeding despite maybe not having the best product objectively. Brand power.
That leads into another interesting point he makes about big companies and innovation.
How larger companies often end up just buying smaller, faster-moving ones, like Facebook snapping up Instagram.
Yeah. It's not always just about killing competition, is it? Sometimes it's because the big guys just can't innovate that quickly themselves.
Exactly. They struggle with that internal agility.
Which, okay, that creates this whole other opportunity for small brands, right? Get noticed, build something cool.
And potentially get acquired, especially if you get traction on a platform like Amazon. Maybe even bridge into physical retail, kind of like Amazon did buying Whole Foods. It's this mix of old and new.
So it's a dynamic landscape. Now, shifting gears a bit, he puts a huge emphasis on audience, building an audience first.
A massive emphasis. He talks about how powerful a responsive online audience is. Think about Carl Icahn moving markets or Tim Ferriss launching bestsellers.
They have that direct line, and he uses Kylie Jenner as a modern example, right?
Yeah.
Building a huge business basically off her audience.
Precisely. But it's not just about getting millions of followers who don't care. It's about identifying your person, that ideal customer.
That's the crucial bit. He flips the usual question instead of, what should I sell?
It's, who do I want to serve? That's the starting point.
Yeah.
He gives examples like Black Rifle Coffee or how Miller Lite turned things around. They really zeroed in on a specific group.
Even with a pretty standard product like coffee or beer, it's about understanding that customer deeply.
building the brand around them, their needs, their wants, their community.
Like the RXBAR story he tells. They made the bars because they were CrossFitters who weren't happy with what was out there.
Exactly. Super focused. Started with their own pain point, served their own community. That focus creates those initial loyal supporters who really drive things early on.
Okay, so you know who you're serving. Then comes the actual product. What's his take there? Does it have to be revolutionary?
Refreshingly, no. He suggests it's often less about inventing something totally new and more about refining what's already out there, giving your specific customer what they want, maybe just better or more tailored.
So find suppliers, he mentions Alibaba as a starting point, get samples.
Yep. Getting samples is critical. Quality control.
But don't get stuck trying to make it perfect from day one.
Right. Perfect doesn't sell. That's his line. The key is to launch something viable, solve a real pain point, and then iterate based on actual feedback. Use those initial sales as market research.
Get it selling first, then worry about fancy branding or packaging later.
Exactly. Focus on the core function, the core problem it solves, and gather feedback simply like with split tests. Just ask people, do you prefer A or B?
That Neat Pack example is a good reminder too, isn't it? Huge success with the first product.
The toiletry bag, yeah.
But the second one flopped because they didn't listen closely enough to what those same customers wanted next. Shows how vital that feedback loop is.
Absolutely. And it's encouraging that bootstrapping is possible. Dollar Shave Club started scrappy using local media. You don't always need millions up front.
So you get the product out, you make that first sale, which he says feels amazing.
Apparently incredibly rewarding, that first bit of validation.
But then you need momentum. How do you build that?
Well, actively chasing reviews is a big one.
Yeah.
Testimonials, engaging with those early customers, making them feel valued, and crucially, don't run out of stock.
Oh, yeah, that's killer for a new business. Loses all momentum.
It's one of the worst things, he says. So reordering early and often is key to keep the sales flowing.
And then scaling isn't just selling more of one thing, it's adding more products.
Right. Moving from that first successful product to maybe 3 to 5 core products. But the key is, those next products should still serve your original customer base.
Like Bulletproof Coffee adding MCT oil and other stuff for their biohacking audience.
Or Neat Pack, despite that stumble, eventually adding other travel gear for their initial customers. It's about understanding who you built the brand for.
Competition will come, obviously.
Always. But staying innovative and keeping that connection with your audience is how you stay ahead. And remember, your big hero product might not even be the first one you launch.
That leads nicely into this idea of stacking the deck before you even launch. What's that about?
It's basically building your audience before the product is ready. Pre-gaming the launch, essentially.
So you have buyers lined up.
Exactly. To guarantee those crucial first sales. He suggests simple things like starting a Facebook page or group around the interest your product serves. Gather the people first.
And it's not just about numbers, right? It's about engagement.
Yeah, he stresses that. A few hundred really passionate, engaged people are way better than thousands who don't care. Responsiveness is key.
And sharing your journey as you build it.
Documenting the process, engaging with them, builds that loyalty and anticipation. Plus, leveraging your own network, reaching out personally, maybe hitting up some micro-influencers.
That story about Sophie and the Lunchbox Kickstarter.
Perfect example. Driven largely by her personal Facebook network that she'd cultivated, shows the power of that pre-built community.
Okay, so you're growing. What are the milestones? Potential traps?
He points to $100,000 a month in sales as a big one. That's often when you can start paying yourself a decent salary, sustainably.
A significant point. And he keeps coming back to audience building being more important than ever now.
Especially for physical products. And he warns against becoming a perpetual hustler, just chasing the next single product. Have a vision for that line of 3 to 5 core products for your customer.
Don't get stuck just optimizing one thing forever.
And take the sale. Don't delay launching forever trying to get it perfect. Get it out there.
That first sale is step one. Then the goal is consistency, like hitting 25 sales a day.
Yeah, that's his benchmark for knowing you've got something solid, a foundation to really grow from.
And avoid those vanity metrics, right? Likes and followers don't always equal profit.
Definitely. Focus on profit. Focus on customer value. Remember, you're in the people business, not just the product business. Sometimes you might even lose a bit up front to get a loyal customer who'll stick around.
It's a longer game.
For sure. And while the title is 12 months to $1 million, he's clear that's just the start.
The first big milestone on a much longer journey.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is presented as this path of like self-discovery, more responsibility, more resilience needed over time. He talks about mentorship too, learning from others.
It sounds like the core message is, here's a proven method, but you have to actually do the work.
That's it in a nutshell. The plan works if you work the plan. Consistent action is everything.
Well, that gives a really solid overview. Definitely sounds like a practical guide for anyone looking to build something.
For sure. Less theory, more, here's what to do next.
Thanks for listening to the Book Review Podcast. If you enjoyed this deep dive into 12 months to $1 million and want to learn more about the specific steps to building your own successful business, be sure to check out Ryan Daniel Moran's book. It's packed with even more detailed strategies and inspiring stories. If you're feeling that entrepreneurial spark or are looking to take your existing business to the next level, this book could provide the practical blueprint you've been searching for. Thanks for listening to the Book Review Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a comment. See you next time.